Hi, everybody. This is Matt Johnson from CWS Lancaster. Just wanted to thank you for coming on. We did a presentation last weekend where we had about an hour and 20 minutes worth of this training and thought that that might be too long if you weren't able to make that. So we're going to do a quick 20-minute overview of the presentation just for those of you that couldn't make it in a way that might be easier for you. So we're going to be talking about PA voter education and getting ready to vote in 2020. Basically our agenda for today is going to be about the importance of voting, the history of voting in our country and voting in our values, registering, which includes the who, hows, whens, wheres, and whys of voting, and then also voting in the specific situation we find ourselves in 2020 in the midst of a pandemic, of course. And then finally, we're going to understand a bit who and what we vote for and a little bit about the Electoral College, which may be confusing to many people. So just wanted to point out that the information contained here is meant to be educational and not necessarily legal advice. You should not be thinking of this as the kind of advice that you would get from a lawyer. If you have any of those types of questions, I can certainly put you in touch with people that would know better. So basically, one of the things that we want to talk about is the benefits of U.S. citizenship. A lot of reasons to get involved. And here are some of the basic ones. You need U.S. citizenship to get a U.S. passport. If you want to bring members of your family to the U.S. from a different country, then U.S. citizenship certainly helps to move that process along. Certain scholarships and grants are only available to U.S. citizens, and you can run for office, which we're really hoping that many former refugees and new Americans do. Certain government benefits, not all, but certain government benefits will kick in, certain Social Security and so forth. If you are a citizen, it allows you to apply for some federal jobs. And of course, as is important with everything, all of these things are dependent upon your ability to be able to vote. And so being able to vote is one of the main benefits of U.S. citizenship. Why should we vote? Well, there's many reasons, and most of the time, the specific reason why you want to go vote is private, but there are certainly a lot of reasons why it's important to do so. One of the things, as it says in the front here, is voting impacts every one of the benefits of citizenship and our lives. If you don't like the way that something is going, if you're upset about policies at your state, local, or federal level, voting is one of the most important things that you can do in order to make sure that your voice is heard. Also, just in case there are concerns about voting, which there have been a lot of things that have put concerns in people's minds throughout this election and previous ones, just remember that voting in the U.S. is private. You do not have to share your vote with anybody who you voted for. And in fact, it's asked that you do not. As you can see in the picture, voting is done in a private booth. It is safe, and it allows you to disagree in a way that doesn't necessarily bring attention to yourself. You're allowed to disagree with what's going on in the world, okay? And finally, voting allows us to elect policymakers who care about the issues that we care about, okay? I think it's very important to remember that voting is our way of saying, here's the future that we would like to see in our country. Now, some people say, well, I am a new citizen. What power do I have? Well, once you become a citizen, you have all of the rights that a native-born citizen would have, and you have immense power. Take a look at these numbers. Since 2014, over 5.3 million people have become naturalized citizens of the United States, 3.1 after the 2016 election, and as of 2018, nearly 500,000 immigrants in PA became naturalized citizens. That's more than 1 in 2 immigrants in PA. Now, the reason I tell you this is because I want you to take a look at these numbers down here. Pennsylvania in 2012 was won in the presidential election by 309,000 votes. 309, think about that. In a state of 11 million, only 309,000 votes. In 2016, by just 44,292 votes, about 11 votes per voting precinct in the state. Now imagine the impact if every naturalized citizen voted in that election. No matter how you feel about the outcome of those elections, your voice and your vote would have an immediate impact on the elections taking place in our state. Does your vote really matter? We're going to get to why U.S. Pennsylvania residents' votes really matter, and we're going to get to other reasons, but I want to just remind you that voting is considered the bare minimum of what civic engagement asks of us. Obviously, there's more you can do. You can write to your congressperson, you can be involved in debates, in protests, in demonstrations, you can write letters to the editor, but without voting, there is no real way that you can demonstrate your actual policy preferences, okay? So if you didn't vote, you can't complain, as this says here. Okay, registering to vote in PA. What is your eligibility? Well, as you might imagine, the first thing you need is to be a citizen of the United States. It is very important that if you are helping people register to vote, that you establish their citizenship before you get them to register. It can be a very serious infraction, a very serious crime to register a non-citizen. In Pennsylvania, you must be at least 18 years old to vote by the date of the general election. And if you're 17, you may pre-register to vote if you will reach 18 by election day. That's November 3rd, as you might see. You have a residency requirement. You must be a resident of PA. You must live and reside in one of the 67 counties for at least 30 days before the election. And you must register before the deadline, which is October 19th. We're about a month away. You are not eligible to vote in PA if you are registered to vote in another state. Now, just to be clear, you can be registered in another vote and then change your registration to PA. But if you are currently registered in another state, you may not vote in PA. You have to change your registration. And if you are in prison for a felony conviction on parole, probation, or post-release supervision, you are eligible to register and vote once you have been completed a felony sentence or have been pardoned. So where can you register to vote? Perhaps the easiest way, especially given the situation we're in right now, is online. If you have a PennDOT license or issued ID, you can go to this link here. You can copy and paste this link here and go ahead and register online. If you'd rather do it on paper, some people choose that. You can get a paper copy from your county board of elections, from me, or a community member. If you're ever unsure about how to do that, just contact me, just get in touch. You do have to update your voter registration if certain things have happened. If you've moved since the last election, so even if you feel like it's not very far, it's just across town or it's just a town over, unless you want to vote in the place that you are familiar with voting, you must change your registration to your new address because it could affect your polling location. If you've had a name change because of marriage, divorce, or any other reason, you have to apply with that new name, and we can get into that. You can send me an email. There are forms to fill out. Finally, if you want to change your address or your party affiliation, you can do that online at the same place where you would register to vote at that link. What do you need to register? If you have an ID, PA, driver's license, or ID card, you are set. That's all you need. If you don't, you can go through some of these other possible items, a bank statement, paycheck, that sort of thing. But it is much easier and much faster to be able to do this using your ID cards. Just remember, the deadline to register to vote in the November 3rd general elections in PA is October 19th. It must be postmarked by that date or completed online. So that's very important. Any attempt to register after the 19th will not allow you to vote in November 3rd's election. How should you make sure that you are registered? Well, the first thing you need to do is check out PA Voter Services. They have an easy to use portal that can tell you if you're registered, where you're registered, the party you're registered to, and the polling location. If you're unsure and your PA voter card has not arrived in the mail after you registered to vote, then you can give me a call or give the county or state board of elections a call. We're going to ask that you know who the candidates are that you can vote for, know your polling place ahead of time or know how you're going to vote, And remember that voters must bring ID only the first time at a new polling place. If you've been voting at the same place for years and years and years, you don't have to worry about your ID. If it's your first time at that polling location, you must bring a government-issued ID. There are two ways to cast your votes in Pennsylvania. The first is early voting by mail-in ballot. You must submit an application for this the Tuesday before the election, but we are asking you to do it well before then, because with the mail the way it is and with the Postal Service being backed up, we need to make sure that you get your vote in. Normally, you would have to fill out an absentee ballot, which says, I'm sick and can't make it, or I'll be out of town. But because of the pandemic, that has been expanded to any registered voter in PA. You do have to request that ballot. It doesn't just come. And we have a link here for the voter must use the first state absentee ballot request form to request that ballot. You must use that form, and you can click on this form, and it will take you to the absentee ballot request. That ballot may be mailed. It can be hand delivered to the election board, or it can be dropped off at your polling location. Please, 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 please send as early as possible. We want to make sure that every vote is counted. If you decide that you would like to do in-person voting, you may do so. It's November 3rd. Your polling place will be on your registration card, or you can check it using the link before. And election day hours are from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. in Pennsylvania. If you are in line at 8 p.m., they must let you vote. If you get into line after 8 p.m., you may not vote. There are many ways for you to get involved with your community that don't just mean going to vote. It's helping your community understand the importance of voting and getting them a voter plan. We know that if you plan ahead of time and you know what you're doing, the get out the vote efforts are much more successful. So if you know someone that needs help, you can go along with them to cast your vote. If there's somebody with a physical, mental disability, someone that is unable to read or write, or someone that doesn't speak the language, you may help them. Okay? Other ways that you can get involved are ways of getting in contact with your community. That means phone banking, making calls, text banking, texting people, using social media, or assisting with vote by mail. If someone needs help in your community and we don't have the language access right away, we're going to lean pretty heavily on you to make sure that that happens. So, just to be clear, as a representative of a nonprofit organization, which I am, or if you are reaching out on behalf of, say, a cultural organization or a charity or nonprofit, you cannot recommend or endorse a candidate or party when registering people to vote. You may not say, I think you should vote for this person, or you may not say you should sign up for this party. You may sign up for whatever party you'd like. What you can do is identify the parties using neutral or objective information. President Obama is a Democrat. President Trump is a Republican. If you sign up for not a Democrat or Republican registration, you may not vote in the primaries in Pennsylvania. So these are all claims that are true, but do not endorse or recommend a position. Now, if you're speaking to people on your own accord, you have people over for dinner, or you talking to people at church or whatever association, you may speak your mind. Just be clear that you are speaking your mind on behalf of yourself and not for the community group you're part of. Just to be clear, in this election, you'll be voting for 3 separate levels of office: the legislative, the executive, and judicial. Now, you should probably know that the judicial branch is not elected, but it is actually both is nominated and approved by the other 2 branches. So when you vote for a legislative branch and the executive branch, know that those folks have the power to appoint and confirm judicial nominees. The federal level, we of course are in a presidential election, so you are voting for a ticket of president and vice president. Obviously, they sign bills into law, they execute them, they make trade agreements, and they choose leaders for important national offices. The president is up. We also have senators and representatives. Representatives are elected every 2 years, meaning that every state representative from Pennsylvania will be up on the ballot. Senators are every 6 years, and this year we have no senators on the ballot in Pennsylvania. So you'll be voting for representatives and not senators. And the Supreme Court, as I mentioned before, makes sure that the laws made by the legislative branch and the executive branch are in line with the Constitution. We don't vote directly for the Supreme Court, though our votes for president and senators do affect who makes it to the Supreme Court. This year, we do not vote for governor, but we do vote for some state senators and representatives. They make policies that affect us in Pennsylvania and Pennsylvania alone, and in many ways are as important, if not more important, than who we send to Washington, because these deal directly with the laws in our areas. There are very few elections going on, but there are other state offices available. For example, the state district attorney, the attorney general. They are the top law enforcer in the state, and they make sure that laws are being pursued. We also have a race for auditor general. Auditor general is a position in Pennsylvania that makes sure that your taxpayer money is being spent in the appropriate ways. If the government has a program that is intended to fight a drug addiction, the state auditor general makes sure that that money was spent the way that it ought to be. So it's a very fantastic position. County commissioners are not on the ballot this year, nor are any mayors or city council members in most of the areas that we work with. So just so you know, going in, here are the positions that are up on the ballot in PA. President and vice president, all members of the House of Representatives, state house members that represent you in Harrisburg, some state senator positions, which represent a larger district in Harrisburg, attorney general, and auditor general, among others. This map over here, you can tell where you live and what congressional district you're in. We mostly work in the 11th district, the 10th district, and the 9th district. We have some folks as well. So just wanted you to see that over there. That is your federal representatives. That's what that means, okay? Finally, America's system of voting is somewhat confusing to most Americans and certainly can be confusing to people that are not intimately familiar with it. Instead of using the popular vote, we use something called the Electoral College. If you look at this cartoon here, you'll notice that 4 states, Florida, Michigan, Wisconsin, and Pennsylvania, dominate this map. Even though they are all smaller, much smaller than that, I'll explain why this cartoon is pretty on point. In a popular vote system, the candidate with the highest number of votes wins. So if one person gets 60 million votes and the other person gets 55 million votes, most people would say that just makes sense, that the person with the larger vote tally will win. But that's not how the founders of America thought of it. They thought of a system called the Electoral College. The Electoral College says that each state has a set number of Electoral College votes based on congressional representation, which itself is based on population, which is based on the census, which you heard me talk about a lot this year. Basically, every state has a given number. The candidate with the majority of those Electoral College votes win. Okay, so even if someone gets 5 more million votes than their competitor, as long as their competitor wins those states that have more Electoral College votes, that person will win. So what does that mean? What is the outcome of that? Well, because of this, it is possible for the winner of the popular vote to lose the election. This happened most recently in 2016 and happened also in the year 2000. Number 2, and this is why this is very important for us, swing states. Swing states are those that could either go Republican or Democrat and go back and forth typically, have a much higher impact on the election. So places like California or North Dakota or Arkansas are already pretty much decided one way or the other based on the number of people registered to vote there and what party they belong to. But states like Michigan, Wisconsin, Florida, and Pennsylvania are very close. And so those states have an outsized role to play in our upcoming systems, in our upcoming election. I read today that Pennsylvania, whoever wins Pennsylvania could either have a 96% or an 85% chance of taking the presidency. If Biden wins Pennsylvania, it's at 96. If President Trump wins Pennsylvania, it's at 85%. In other words, the point there is that we live in a state that has the power to essentially elect the president. So that's why I say in the third box here that PA will play an absolutely crucial role in deciding the next president. So if you're worried that your vote doesn't matter or it doesn't really count, just know that Pennsylvania could break an eventual electoral college tie. It's going to be close. So make sure to get your voting out there. Now, normally I would take questions here, but of course, instead, since this is just a recording of me, please send your questions to the above addresses. That's my name, Matt Johnson, MP Johnson at CWS Global, and also my phone number. You may speak with Ahmed, who is a local volunteer Get Out the Vote organizer who's been working on campaigns for many years, and Adamu Muhammad, who is a collaborator and my boss from CWS, can also help. Thank you so much. I hope that you have questions and that you reach out to me as soon as you get a chance. It's been wonderful going over these issues with you. Have a wonderful day.